Welcome back, Playmakers. I'm your host, Liv Misek. It is Friday, October 29th, and to kick off the last episode of the month, we have 30 minutes of exclusive content from our hardworking crew. I'm sure you've noticed that I'm not in my usual blazer, but for the Halloween holiday spirit, I'm, of course, my favorite player in the league, former Patriot and now Buccaneer, four-time Super Bowl champion with some broken ribs, and the best tight end in the league, Rob Gronkowski. You might be wondering what today's episode entails. From our wonderful co-host duo, Blake and Claire, to our very own Anna Ambrose talking KU football, ending with our Women in Sports Table Talk. We are the Playmakers, and today, like any other Friday, we are here for you. All this and more on Playmakers.
8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Welcome back, Playmakers. I'm Blake Sevenbergen, and I'm joined today by Claire Decatur. We had a hectic weekend of sports around the world, but an even crazier weekend in terms of fantasy football.
Yes, there were players in big games that stepped up on the field and pleased many fantasy owners. Let's start with last Thursday's game between the Browns and the Broncos.
Yes, for sure. Dearness Johnson was sending DMs to AAF teams just a few years ago, and Thursday night he got his first career start with the Browns, and he did not disappoint.
With the whole Browns roster injured, including quarterback Baker Mayfield, Johnson stepped up by rushing 146 yards and a touchdown, bringing in 25.8 fantasy points.
Yeah, no kidding. I'm glad I got to pick him up. The play of Johnson helped propel the Browns to a victory over a reeling Broncos team. And another player with a great weekend in a big game was Jamar Chase. In a game to claim the lead in the AFC North, Chase had a career day in the Bengals' rout of the Ravens.
Former KU commit Chase had 8 receptions for 201 yards and a touchdown. He finished with 36.6 fantasy points, insane state line for a rookie receiver, and the Bengals won 41-17.
Yes, and then on the other end, Seahawks receiver Tyler Lockett had an abysmal Monday night game with only 2 catches for 12 yards. While it wasn't the only factor, Lockett's performance hurt both fantasy owners and the Seahawks' playoff hopes with Russell Wilson out.
Blake, we're talking a lot about fantasy football here, so maybe we should just leave it to the experts. Gabe took to campus this week to discuss fantasy football. Take it away.
Thank you, Gabe and Jackson. Pucks are flying and people are skating. The 2021-22 NHL season is in full motion, and I'm here to tell you who I think is going to win every division. Starting out with the Pacific Division, I'm going to have to give it to the Vegas Knights. They're almost always at least good, and I believe they have some serious potential for this season. Now, although I don't think that the new expansion team is going to be that good, I do believe that they're going to be a team to be excited to watch. Now, over to the Central Division. Now, although this team is not off to the hottest of starts, I still believe the Colorado Avalanche can pull it together and win their division. They're actually the favorites to win the Stanley Cup. Now, for the Atlantic Division, I'm going to have to give it to the reigning Stanley Cup winners, the Tampa Bay Lightning. They still have the pieces to win the Stanley Cup again, and I believe it'll be fun to watch how they do this season. Last but definitely not least, the Metropolitan Division. Now, here I am, a little biased, but I'm going to have to give it to my hometown New York Islanders. Coming off their stellar season last year, I believe they have all the pieces to make a deep playoff run and possibly even hoist the Stanley Cup at the conclusion of the season. Let's go, Islanders. Now, those are my picks for who will win each division this season in the NHL.
For students searching for a way to stay active in an outdoorsy way, the City of Lawrence has bike trails running in every direction, and with the new bike share program, we can stay in shape as we tour the sights of our beautiful city. Clinton Lake is only a short 30-minute bike ride away from Daisy Hill and has the most incredible sunset location in all of Lawrence. Walking campus may give you the KU calves, but biking can give you the KU thighs. Bike Lawrence today.
The NHL season is about to be one of the best yet. But hey, in other news, we actually get to talk highly of our KU football team.
Yeah, no kidding. Maybe for the first time this year. KU football shut out Oklahoma in the first half on Saturday and was arguably one or two key plays away from knocking off the number 3 team in the country.
Yes, while the team sadly still lost, KU dominated most of the game, holding a lead through 3 quarters. Freshman Devin Neal had a Big 12 newcomer of the week-worthy performance with 100 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, Dev played great. It was unreal. But I will say, I'm still pretty upset with how the end of that game went. I think Kennedy Brooks was definitely down on that 4th and 1 play, but our own Anna Ambrose has more on the controversial game-defining play.
You're right, Blake and Claire. This call caused lots of controversy in the world of football, and I'm here to break it down for you all. In the 4th quarter, with 3 minutes and 28 seconds left, Oklahoma was leading Kansas 28-23. On a 4th and 1 from the Sooners' 46, running back Kennedy Brooks was tested by Kansas defense with an almost 2-yard loss. As that happened, quarterback Caleb Williams ran in and took the ball from him, scrambling forward as Brooks was tackled and Williams advanced for 5 yards and a controversial first down. Big 12 coordinator of officials Greg Burks came out with a statement after the call that was confirmed of a legal forward handoff. He said, "The reviewable aspects of the play were position of the ball in relation to the line of scrimmage and if possession was ever lost by the offense. The ball never crossed the line of scrimmage and there was never a loss of possession, not a fumble, so this play was a forward handoff behind the line of scrimmage." Head coach Lance Leipold was asked if he felt his team was robbed of a chance to get the win because of the call. Leipold answered, "I'm not going to comment on that right now. Like I said, those are tough calls on progress. I'd have to take another look at it." Terry McCauley, former NFL referee and rules analyst for NBC's Sunday Night Football, tweeted that the play should have been blown dead when Williams was driven back 2 yards. Sadly, though, that is not reviewable. Here are my thoughts on it. This is unlike anything I've seen in my entire life, and I think it's interesting how this was settled as a first down. Let me know what you guys think on social media at Playmakers KU. Thanks for joining me today in Recent News. We will be right back after this break.
The MLB World Series is now in full swing with the Braves and the Astros tied as 1 as the series heads back to Atlanta tonight.
Yes, in Game 1, the Braves won 6-2, but it cost them their ace starting pitcher in Charlie Morton. However, Morton struck out Jose Altuve to end the 3rd inning with a broken leg, and the Braves still went on to win.
Game 2 was an entirely different story as the Astros dominated the game, winning 6-2.
Yeah, Game 3 is set for a 7 o'clock first pitch tonight in Atlanta. The Braves have Ian Anderson on the mound taking on Luis Garcia from the Astros.
While the MLB season is nearing a close, the chase for another is just about to begin for this year's KU Hoop squad.
Exactly right. KU Hoops is third in the preseason AP poll, and the season is less than 2 weeks away. I couldn't be more excited for the upcoming year.
I'm also pumped as the team looks like we might be able to storm Mastery here in April. The roster is loaded and Coach Self is ready to go.
I agree. But before we get too expectant of a title, Gabe and Jackson are going to give us a mashup of the top contenders in the NCAA this season.
Welcome back to Mashup, where we debate the biggest player matchups of the week. The regular season is right around the corner for college basketball, and the Associated Press Top 25 poll was released last week. Today, Jackson and I will be discussing which of the top 4 teams we believe would have the best chance to win a national championship.
That's right, Gabe. This year, Gonzaga comes in as the preseason AP #1 ranked team in the country, followed by UCLA, Kansas, and Villanova.
Yeah, let's get started off with those Villanova Wildcats, one of the most prominent college basketball organizations. With players like Colin Gillespie, Jermaine Samuels, and Justin Moore returning, they are sure to be a solid team on the offensive end. But my biggest concern with this squad is their defense, which ranked dead last in opponent effective field goal percentage last season. They're nonetheless a great squad behind Gillespie, and their win percentage last season really supported it.
You know, I thought that losing Colin Gillespie in the tournament was going to hurt them last year, but they still ended up making the Sweet 16 despite not having him. This Villanova team is very deep and very talented, and they could make a lot of noise come March. So the next team is the number 3rd ranked, our very own Kansas Jayhawks. That's right, I love our team this year. I said on air last week that it was championship or bust time, and honestly, I still stand by that. This team is way too talented and way too deep to not bring home a natty to Lawrence. I really love this roster.
Yeah, I do too. I like what those Jayhawks have to offer this season with Ochai, McCormick, and Christian Brown returning. This team seems to be in great hands. And with the addition of Remy Martin, who was also huge for this organization because last year we suffered a lot without a strong point guard. This team is strong on all aspects of the floor and has a ton of depth on their roster. At the end of the day, I feel like being number 3 on the poll was a little bit of a slap in the face to them, and hopefully they take it personally this year because there's no reason for them not to be the top team in the country this season. Now, on to the UCLA Bruins. They're a great squad who made a deep playoff run in the Final Four last year. They have experienced players such as the shifty guard Tiger Campbell, sharpshooters Johnny Juzang, and Jaime Jaquez Jr. Their offense revolved around these players in their playoff run, and it's very likely that they'll all have improved since then. With the addition of players like their new five-star recruit Peyton Watson, I think this team will be a tough one to beat.
So now here's where I'm going to zag with you, Gabe, for the first time today. UCLA, it's that same team from last year, just as you said, which that team made a Final Four. But that team was also just a tipped ball away from not even making out of the play-in game. This is a Cinderella team that everyone kind of fell in love with, who I really wouldn't be surprised to see fall in the rankings early on. Now, don't get me wrong. I like this team a lot. They're a really good basketball squad. But I don't think they're worthy of being ranked all the way up at number 2. And now for the number 1 team, the Gonzaga Bulldogs. I mean, this team is just ridiculous. Just like every year, this team has loads of talent. However, year after year, the Zags continue to disappoint in March. I want to see them win a natty before we keep getting excited about them every season because there's a reason we get excited. They're very talented, but they've yet to show us what they can do in March.
Mm-hmm. Now, with Chet Holmgren, who is a monster on both sides of the ball in high school, and the highest-ranked recruit to ever sign with the Zags, if that doesn't say enough about their chances of success, then the fact that they fell barely short of a championship last season does. I think this team is tough. I know I said Kansas could be the number 1 spot, but with this team, I could understand why people might argue against it. I mean, they've been an excellent organization throughout the past decade, and with the return of Drew Timm, Andrew Nembhard, they should have no problems with keeping it that way. I think this squad's recent championship run experience could be a leading factor to what propels them to win it all this year. Now, on to who we think could win a championship. I'm siding with the Zags. I think they're a really solid team, and although KU is too, I think that the fact that, like I said, they almost won a championship last year gives them the experience to do it this year.
Yeah, I really like that pick. I think Gonzaga is, if it's not KU, it's Gonzaga, the most talented team in the country. But I'm going to go with the Kansas Jayhawks. I think, what did you said earlier about the point guard, how we have a strong point guard play this year, that's what we were missing last year. We love Marcus Garrett. Marcus Garrett's our favorite player. But he's not a point guard, and everybody knows that. So now we have Remy Martin. DeJuan Harris is going to step up big this year. Bobby Pettiford off the bench. Joseph Yesufu is a combo guard. There are so many options that Bill Self could go with this team this year. This roster is so deep, one of the deeper ones we've had in years, and I'm really excited to see what they can do.
Yeah, they're a very, very strong team, that's for sure. Well, that's all the time we have for today's Matchup Mashup, Jackson. Well, basketball season was right around the corner. Soccer has just wrapped up their fall season. Rookie Emily Baldwin sat down with Bre Severance. Take a look.
The KU women's soccer team has had a tough season, concluding with last night's 2-0 loss to the University of Texas. While it was a rough game, sophomore Bre Severance is already looking forward to next season and the improvements the Jayhawks can make on the field.
Next year, I'm just excited to play with majority of my teammates again and get new players and become even better.
While the girls might not have gotten the outcome they wanted out of last night's game, Severance is just grateful that she got to spend more time with her teammates and create closer bonds.
Last year with COVID, it was really difficult to get to know each other. We had to be in our bubbles who we lived with. So this year, just getting to know everyone better and hanging out with everyone 24/7 has been the best part.
This extra feeling of trust has allowed Severance to not only trust her teammates more off the field, but also on the field. She accredits her 6 goals and 6 assists this season to them.
But really just trusting my teammates and sacrificing anything for my teammates, that has given me more confidence than I've ever had. So just knowing I can rely on them and hopefully they can rely on me has just given me the ability to do my job.
This season was full of memorable moments, including Severance's golden goal against West Virginia in the final seconds of the game, clinching the 2-1 win.
It was amazing. The team needed it, I needed it, so just to go out there and beat the number 9th team in the nation at the time, it was the best feeling I could have ever had.
While this is only Severance's second season playing for KU, she has already shown tremendous potential, earning the National Player of the Week award for Women's Division I soccer a few weeks ago. This came after her golden goal against the number 9 ranked West Virginia.
I was actually driving back home to Stouffer, and Coach called me and was like, just letting you know, you're the National Player of the Week. I was like, oh, okay, great, awesome.
While this season may not have gone the way that the team expected after a successful last 2 seasons, the Jayhawks are keeping their heads up and focusing on next year. For Rookie Takeover, I'm Emily Baldwin.
Thank you, Emily. Sad to see the soccer season come to a close. On Wednesday night, Kyle Beach, former Chicago Blackhawks player, came out as the John Doe in an investigation that has been going on since this past summer. In the summer of 2010, after the Chicago Blackhawks won the Stanley Cup, former 11th overall pick Kyle Beach was sexually assaulted by then video coach Brad Aldrich. When Beach reported it to the team's front office, they failed to take any action, and for the remainder of the 2010-2011 season, the team was said to have been harassing Beach about the incident. Flash forward to this past summer, Beach filed suit against the organization for failing to handle the situation correctly. An independent investigation was done, which led to the mass resignation of any and all front office members of the Stanley Cup winning team in 2010. This includes general manager Stan Bowman, Florida Panthers head coach Joel Quenneville, and many others from their NHL jobs. Beach has said this is just the beginning, but he is committed to holding the Chicago Blackhawks responsible for their actions and gaining tons of support for his case. We'll keep you updated with breaking news on our social media, and that's all we have for today. After the break, Liv will be back with Tweets of the Week.
You may not hear it at first, but it's there. Our chant, rising. On this summit, callings converge, voices unify into a chorus that sounds out for good, for greatness. Can you hear it?
In honor of beating the only undefeated team in the league last night, and since Halloween is only 2 days away, this week's Tweet of the Week are pulled from the hot topic of Aaron Rodgers and his Halloween costume. Before we look at the tweets, you may be wondering what I'm even talking about. The former MVP is sporting a new look this season. He now has far too long hair, and there actually is a reason behind it that may shock you. On the Pat McAfee show, Rodgers said that the long hair is actually preparation for his Halloween costume this year. Apparently, growing out his locks has been a year-long commitment, and the nation will know for sure what that reason is on October 31st. Some of these predictions are ranging from Jesus Christ to Caitlyn Jenner. So of course, we had to turn to Twitter to see the rage about Rodgers' well-thought-out decision. Our first tweet from @wifecallsmecarl states, Aaron Rodgers said his long hair is for a Halloween costume. Should be the last time we have to see that mop. My wife was thankful for that reminder. Ha. Well, I'd have to agree with his wife. I can't stand his hair at all. Our last tweet is from All Girls Oh No, states, "Am I the only one who thinks Aaron Rodgers is going to be Joe Exotic for Halloween?" I mean, I could honestly see him doing that, but we're going to kick it to Twitter and you guys let us know your predictions or thoughts about Aaron Rodgers and his luscious locks. Before we move on, here's a social media update. Another episode of Live with Liv will be released later this afternoon, and if you missed Big 12 Media Day coverage from our last show, don't worry. Tune in to Live with Liv as we recap everything you need to know about preseason basketball.
No one takes drugs expecting to become addicted. You should know that addiction can happen to anyone because it's a disease of the brain. That also means recovery is possible. Addiction doesn't have to be permanent, and the state of Kansas is ready to assist you in every step of the way. Visit findtreatment.gov or call the Kansas Substance Abuse Referral Line at 866-645-8216.
Welcome to today's 2-minute warning, or better yet, 2 minutes of women in sports. Yeah, this past Tuesday, Laura Oakman, current NFL sideline reporter for Fox and fellow Jayhawk alumni, held a Zoom meeting to engage students with others regarding staying positive and discussing the hard questions. Laura Oakman has reported for more than 10 Super Bowls, hosted 3 Olympic Games, and reported for multiple World Series, NBA, and NHL championships. In the workshop, she emphasized the pressures of being a woman in sports and allowed for the others to connect with each other.
She definitely did. I was at Laura's Galvanize workshop Tuesday night, and even though it was on Zoom, she is just amazing. Like, obviously her track record is very impressive, but she definitely speaks words of wisdom too. And working your way into the world of sports as a woman is by no means a clear-cut path, but Laura's not too worried about that part of it. She just encourages everyone to work for their dreams anyway, and honestly, it was just such a great experience.
Yeah, that's awesome. I wish I was able to go. Seems like Tuesday night was a pretty big night for women in sports, as a firm hired by the NCAA released the second review of the organization's spending gap between championship games for men's and women's sports on Tuesday night. This review follows the initial review of the spending gap that was released earlier this year, but this time it suggests the ways the NCAA can change their agenda moving forward.
Like you said, this report was about the NCAA's spending equity, and to put it simply, they spend way more money on male athletes than they do on female athletes. Like, we're talking millions of dollars here, especially for primetime tournament games and championship games.
Yeah, exactly. The NCAA actually spent $1,700 more per player on men's championship athletes than women's championship athletes, and the gap is even larger when it comes to single-gendered sports like beach volleyball and wrestling. For these championships, the NCAA spent approximately $2,200 more per student athlete for male sports than they did women's sports.
Which is a ton of money. And this entire review started after the NCAA failed to provide similar amenities to both the male and female athletes during the Division I basketball tourneys earlier this year back in March. And it created such backlash that Mark Emmert, the NCAA president, literally had to release a formal apology on the organization's behalf about the issue.
The firm Kaplan and Hecker and Fink had some suggestions to add to the report, including increasing the number of senior staff in the NCAA's championship structure to improve oversight of gender equity. They're also changing the budget system for the next 5 years to ensure the spending will be validated.
And while those are long-term changes the NCAA will discuss, they first have to jump through hoops with media rights contracts and figure out how to get equal scholarships for both men and women's sports and all this other mess of stuff. But for now, the term March Madness can now be used to describe the women's basketball tournament, which is huge. Like, that's something that's never happened before, so that's a big deal.
Yeah, that's great, and hopefully we'll be able to see more progress soon. Speaking of that, our Kansas Jayhawks women's basketball team kicks off their season November 10th against Southern Illinois. And that's all we have for the 2-minute warning. Now back to Liv.
And that's all the time we have for today's show. Thank you for tuning in to the last episode of the month. We can't wait to see what November has in store for Playmakers. Don't forget, the Kansas Jayhawks are at OSU tomorrow night for a 6 p.m. kickoff. Tune in for TV coverage on Fox Sports 1. To wrap up this week's episode, our crew wanted to relay an important message to you. Be safe this holiday weekend, and whatever you do, be responsible. Have a happy Halloween, Jayhawks. See you in November, and remember, it's not about the game you played, but the plays you made. Rock chalk.